Aaron Glenn had a lot to say yesterday. We've got some of those top clips and takeaways. Plus, what did he say about Aaron Rodgers? Oh boy, there's a new sheriff in town, baby. Boy Green Daily starts now.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
You're fucking depression.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you find your podcast, baby. We are coming at you after the Aaron Glenn Darren Mougey introductory press conference yesterday. All kinds of takeaways, clips to play, and so much more. We'll be breaking it down with a very special guest, Jets reporter from Athlon Sports, Nick Gashdarn Faria, joins us here this morning. Good morning, Nick.
Morning, buddy. How's everything going?
Oh, boy. Well, okay. I'll tell you how everything's going after this. Here it is. Let's see.
To any players that's here now, put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. Listen, there are going to be some challenges, but with challenges becomes opportunity, gets opportunity. But here's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit. Listen, I want this job. I interviewed for a number of them, but I wanted this job. When I was going to my second interview, I wanted to make sure this is going to be the second interview. It's going to be the first of the second interviews, because I didn't want to leave the building without shaking Woody's hand and make sure we had a contract. So I'm just telling you now, everything else was really out of it. It was all about the Jets, and it's been that way from the beginning.
I'm in. Okay, AG, let's go. Buckle the gosh darn seatbelts. And you could almost hear it if you had your ear close enough to your, however you're consuming this show. And when he said, we're built for this shit, everyone, whoa, okay. There seemed to be like a little oohs and ahs in the room. You tell us, Nick Faria. Aaron Glenn gets introduced. You know, winning, losing press conferences. That's always a sexy thing to talk about, I'm sure. But what was the vibe coming out of the AG and Darren Mougey, who, you know, he dodged a lot of bullets there. Most of them were getting thrown at Aaron Glenn's way, but both introduced yesterday.
Yeah, so I'll sit here and say I'll first start off with I think the Jets in their introductory press conference probably ran theirs the best out of any team that had an introductory presser yesterday. You had with the Raiders, Pete Carroll was getting interrupted by Marshawn Lynch. The Cowboys, the first question asked to Jerry Jones lasted 15 minutes because the guy went on a diatribe that no one still understands. Liam Cohen did whatever the hell he did. He's making everyone from Rhode Island look bad. Aaron Glenn was really good, was really strong. And I think Woody Johnson's comments were strong. I thought Darren Mougey's comments were really strong. So you look at from the perspective of what other teams dealt with yesterday, and you have to sit there and say the Jets look the most well put together. They look like they have a plan in place, that they trust the guys to build this team for the future. Now, I do want to add the caveat. I do want to add that none of this is going to end up mattering. In 4 months, in 5 months, we're not going to be talking about his introductory press conference. We're going to be talking about, okay, let's look at the roster that Mougey has created. Let's look at the team's practice schedule that Aaron Glenn is working with. What does the team look like in OTAs? What does the team look like in training camp? Those are the questions that we're going to be asking ourselves that are actually going to matter. How a coach sounds in an introductory press conference, all it does is just bring some excitement back into a fan base that has really struggled. The Raiders have struggled. The Jags were awful this year. The Cowboys were a mess. All these guys had introductory press conferences. The Jets did the job in getting the fan base excited. You did the job. Great. But we have seen many times where a coach can have a great introductory press conference and it not work out. We have seen several times where a coach is embarrassing in his introductory press conference and has been successful. So I think we need to understand that, yes, we can be excited. Jets fans can be excited, but also with the understanding and appreciation that this isn't going to matter in 5 months. It's just not.
I'm going to be honest. I had no idea what to expect from Aaron Glenn. Again, I've seen pocket press conferences for coordinators, which are not very long. I remember as the tail end of his career, but again, he's not doing media press conferences anywhere near where they are now. So I wasn't sure what to expect, especially when the topic of Aaron Rodgers was inevitably going to come up. And Aaron is the one who brought it up himself when he's at the podium before Q&As. He said, I want to nip a few things in the bud. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. What are we going to talk about here? And he brings up Aaron Rodgers. So he has a couple of opportunities to talk Aaron Rodgers. He was at the podium himself. Then he was at the table where Q&As are happening. Then he was in the media scrum where everyone blitzkrieged him with Aaron Glenn questions. And I believe these comments that I'm about to read are from the media scrum with Zach Rosenblatt, which weren't fully televised. But it was this from Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic on social media. This thing is not about Aaron Rodgers. It's about the roster. And then this is Zach's interpretation of what he said. Said they will evaluate everyone the same way. No one player is more important than any other player on the team. That's a pretty whoosh, because before in yesteryear, Aaron Rodgers was clearly, it was everybody and then Aaron Rodgers here. So I'm kind of curious your response or reaction rather to all of the Aaron Glenn opportunities of taking time to figure it out, and him and Darren Mougey are going to evaluate the roster to figure it out. It just felt like a very blunt, here's Aaron Rodgers, okay?
Yeah.
No one's above the team and all that other jazz.
In fairness to Glenn, they have more important things to do right now. They just do. They need to hire their staff. They've got Mobile right now. I mean, they're behind the 8 ball in a way where they're not going to be able to go to some of these scouting situations and opportunities. And you got to figure out who's going to be your offensive coordinator, who's going to be your DC, who's going to be the assistant GM. You have all these questions about staff that is just more important right now because those are the decisions that have to be made right away. So I wasn't really surprised by the non-answer. And again, the expectation when you go into an introductory press conference, you go in and you want to see if the coach looks and sounds competent. Brian Shaw looked competent yesterday. Liam Cohen did not. But with Aaron Glenn, there was a sense of competency yesterday. And I think that's all that really should be taken away from it. If you wanted answers on the roster, you were never going to get them in this situation. If you wanted to see who the team was going to hire, you weren't going to get it in this situation yesterday. So this was pretty much a carbon copy look of how to ace a introductory presser without actually telling anything of substance. They talked about why Aaron Glenn wanted to be here. He talked about his stories, the past history of the 98 conference title game. I thought that was fantastic. It showed the connection that Glenn had with the team and the team's history. You always want to see that. I heard Woody Johnson say to one person, he really wanted the job. Talking about Aaron Glenn. He really wanted it. And I'm listening, and I'm like, what, did you just hire him because he really wanted it? I mean, that shouldn't be the precursor. If that's the case, anyone who really wants a job should be able to get it. And then he ended with, when we opened the process, he was just head and shoulders above everybody. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is going to work out. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that just because he aced it, that means Aaron Rodgers is going to fall in line. There are so many questions that need to be answered in regard to that, but it's just you're not going to get that right away. And Glenn stood by his points.
Yeah, he get a little aggressive with the media when the media keeps asking the same questions. Like, boom, you guys are all asking the same question.
He tried everything. We had Rich talking about Bill Parcells quarterbacks. We had everyone talking about what kind of quarterback he's looking for. He wasn't taking the bait.
Hey, hey, man. And this is why another reason I thought that Aaron Glenn was uniquely, you never know if someone's going to be a success or not, obviously, but uniquely apt for the job is that, like a Saleh has no idea what the New York media market is, and he gets thrown into it. It's like, whoa. Aaron Glenn was a player here for 8 of his 15 seasons. He scouted for an additional 2 years. Like, you throw all that together, he knows what New York is for the better or for the worse. He's been there during the shitty times. He's been there during the great times. So I thought that was going to be a good test of like, hey, does AG still have his game? He hasn't been in New York all these years, and you see in the media scrum, oh yeah, okay, he does. But again, it's introductory press conference. This is the honeymoon phase, and while he was able to put on the deflector beams, like let's see what's happening in a handful of months. But you mentioned the staff. And obviously, it's hard to answer an Aaron Rodgers question when we don't know who the hell the offensive coordinator is going to be. Maybe that will give us some indication, and maybe that will be part of the response for Aaron to understand. Okay, we got the head coach GM. Who's the offensive coordinator? All right, does everybody want me? There's a lot of things to figure out. And the name that everyone keeps saying is Nick Caley, the LA Rams tight ends coach and passing game coordinator. He's the favorite. He's the top guy. He's the top target. Well, last night he interviewed virtually for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator position, which wildly became available. Thanks, Liam Cohen, for all his crazy crap that happened yesterday. My immediate question to you is, how scared should Jet fans be? Because shoot, that trying to be unbiased in a Jets polo and Jets shirt, trying to be. That Buccaneers job looks pretty attractive. Baker Mayfield just had this crazy year. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, like Sean Tucker, Syracuse alum. They got all these crazy talented guys on this. Cade Otton, who had a wonderful year. All this talent, like, holy crap. If I was an offensive coordinator and I'm picking my spot, shoot, that sounds pretty attractive to me. How scared should Jet fans be of the Buccaneers job suddenly becoming available? Because the offensive coordinator market is highly competitive for a few amount of guys.
I wouldn't be too worried about it. I really wouldn't. Even if you lose out on Nick Caley, there's a lot of young offensive-minded individuals who are very successful and have been. I look at, maybe they aren't able to get Nick Caley. The number 2 guy that I thought would be a great fit was Clint Kubiak. That's no longer going to happen. He took the Seahawks job. Yeah. But you look and say, well, Bobby Slowick's available. You look at other offensive assistants that have helped out young quarterbacks. That could also be a thought. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this team is going to be screwed if they don't get Nick Caley. He's obviously the clear target for Aaron Glenn. But I also think that there's going to be a way where you can get a really good offensive play caller, pair him with a senior offensive assistant, someone like Todd Haley. His name was actually dragged through a little bit a couple times already. And you pair those two together and you create an offensive system with experience, but also with the modern flair of what you need to do to win. So I think there's a nice balance here. I wouldn't be too concerned. There's a lot of young offensive minds out there. Very few young defensive minds that people really buy into, which is why if you're Aaron Glenn, you want an experienced defensive play caller like he's going to potentially get with Steve Wilkes. I just wouldn't be too worried about who's the offensive play caller right now as they're going through the interview process. If they go in and they say that Nathaniel Hackett gives them the best chance to be successful, you can throw the alarm bells out. We can throw them out there, but we don't know who they're going to end up interviewing, what kind of situation they want to bring that coordinator in. And in fairness to them, we asked Aaron Glenn about his offensive philosophy yesterday. And I thought this was very important because even if it's, we want to be more tougher, we want to do this, we want to do that, he wasn't giving anything away. He goes, our identity is our identity that we talk about in meetings, in the locker room. You will see our identity on Sundays. And I thought that was very powerful because it doesn't tie him into, we want to run the ball, as many defensive coordinators turned head coaches want to do. We want to trust our quarterback, any of that. The fact that he was so open to everything, I think, is a very good sign the Jets are not going to leave any stone unturned as an offensive play caller, and they'll still be able to get a top guy.
All right, let's go to a name you just mentioned, Bobby Slowick, which is crazy. He was the talk of the town last year. C.J. Stroud was like the greatest rookie of the year until Jaden Daniels said, hold my beer, I guess. So he was terrific. And
big Jaden Daniels fan.
Yeah, and I can understand why. And Bobby Slowick is the talk of the town last year. And everyone's like, ooh, maybe he could be a head coach candidate, all this jazz. He isn't. Then this year comes, and there was some high moments, but a lot of low. And he was one of the million guys, the 16 guys that interviewed for the Jets head coaching position. He just got friggin' canned. He's available for anybody now. I'm curious, you mentioned his name. Is he somebody that the Jets should be interested in potentially as a guy? Because he did wonderful work with CJ Stroud in year 1. Year 2 was a disaster. So I'm curious if that would be something like, hey, I mean, this guy obviously has some chops, even if they were inconsistent chops. Should he be a name, on the list?
I just love the abruptness of the NFL, where we immediately throw quarterbacks and coaches under the bus after a down year without recognizing that Slowick was a first-time play caller, and he was going through kind of some sophomore slumps as well. And there were other factors in place. Houston was decimated this year along the offensive line. They brought in some offensive line pieces to fix it, and they all got injured. Like, let's be fair. When that happens, you're not going to win a lot of football games. And C.J. Stroud gets the credit for winning the 2 division titles. He gets the credit for winning a playoff game, but he gets no blame for the sophomore slump that he went through. Everyone says it's a coaching thing. So I think we have to be fair. I think absolutely Bobby Slowick can be very successful. He had a very good first year with Stroud and that Texans offense. They were kind of victims of expectations. They brought in a lot of players. The offensive game plan was stale at times. You wondered what some of these play calls were. But at the end of the day, I have to mention young play callers. Sometimes you fail at one spot, you get another opportunity, and you're successful. And if the Jets give Slowick the opportunity to build his system and work with the quarterback of his choice, I think he can be really successful.
All right, we'll see. Bobby Slowick is the name out there. Let's throw up the Boy Green raffle leaderboard here, because we have an update to do, because we have a super chat coming in. And every time we have a super chat on the show, we hear from my daughter, Zariah Luna, who has some thoughts on this. Share 'em?
Wow.
J-Boy here says, I'm getting nervous that they can't fire Nate Hackett, which, by the way, J-Boy, along with your other combinations of Super Chats previously this cycle, that's another raffle ticket for our contest, so appreciate it, J-Boy. Can you quell the concerns of one J-Boy, and there's been others that have, other Jet fans that have been brought this up, because obviously you've seen, like, Jeff Ulbrich, he's gone. You've seen assistants like Tony Oden and Brant Boyer, they're gone. But it wasn't like the Jets came out and said, everyone's fired. Sometimes that happens, like an interim staff and all your dudes get the F out of here immediately after the season's over. That public announcement necessarily didn't happen. Can you quell J-Boys and other Jet fans' concerns with this Nate Hackett stuff?
I think it's more likely that Todd Downing gets consideration for the offensive coordinator than Nathaniel Hackett. And that isn't to say that Downing's going to get the job. I just think that the Jets are going to sit there and say, this system does not work. It has not worked. It's a product of a bygone era in football. No one runs the traditional West Coast system at its base anymore. And whether people want to admit it or not, the quarterback position has completely changed. We talk about scrambling quarterbacks never being successful Super Bowl contenders, but you're having a quarterback play in the Super Bowl that's purely a scrambling quarterback for the second time in 3 years. So I look at where Hackett is. I think that there's a less than 0% chance he becomes the offensive coordinator or even is available on the staff of Aaron Glenn.
By the way, we haven't addressed this yet, but I forgot to give you a congratulations, Nick, because we have NY Jets FL here. He says, hey, please have Nick on the morning after the Eagles win. We have a Super Bowl rematch. It is the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to be honest, that wasn't the number one on my bingo card to see. I enjoyed it the first time. It was a good game. So I think people are sort of forgetting that for the people
I didn't enjoy it.
that are saying stuff about it. But, yeah, man, what are the feelings? You have the sole responsibility of America to try to prevent the first three-peat in NFL history in the Super Bowl era.
I mean, naturally, but I'm going to say this. I don't really like talking about the team before the game. I like talking after.
Sure.
I never want to – I'm a very, very superstitious fan.
Oh,
I mean, if I showed you my nails, you'd look and say, holy crap, dude, you have a problem. So I'm very, very superstitious. Very loud. My wife refuses to watch football games with me. I was going to host a Super Bowl party, and all my friends said, not happening. We're not going to get killed in the middle of this game. So it gets loud in the Faria household. Very, very excited, very appreciative of the fact that for the first 10 years of my life, I saw my team lose every playoff game they possibly could in just excruciating fashion. And to be in the Super Bowl 3 times in 8 years, it's a very humbling and appreciative experience. But you're not getting much out of me other than that. I think they're going to lose by 50 based on what I've seen.
Look at this stuff. Look at this AG. You learned a lot of lessons yesterday from AG. We were talking about the coordinators. Let's go to AG. This was something personally I expected, but you can't just assume things and then that they're going to happen. Aaron Glenn will not be calling plays for the Jets defense. That will be left to whoever he hires as a defensive coordinator. And the biggest name we've heard is Steve Wilks. Connor Hughes, during the SNY Breaking News show when AG was hired last week, said the full expectation at the time was that Steve Wilks would be the guy. Obviously, we haven't heard. We've just heard rumor mill since. What do you make of Aaron Glenn's decision not to call plays? And then obviously the onus now on that, it was obviously important for the Jets OC hire for all the obvious reasons we've talked about forever. But now the DC hire is even more important because that guy's going to be calling plays for one Aaron Glenn.
There were a lot of it. I'm going to start by saying, to kind of go off just a little bit. There were a lot of introductory press conferences yesterday. One of them that's getting overlooked is Jeff Ulbrich was announced as the Falcons defensive coordinator. He spoke to the media. And I thought his answer directly impacts Aaron Glenn because he asked about, doing both roles, the defensive coordinator and the interim head coach. And he said it was a regret that he had. There was too much he was trying to do, too much he was putting on his plate, trying to keep the continuity together with everyone involved, and he just collapsed from the pressure. He acknowledged that. I think that's Aaron Glenn's understanding as well, where I don't need to be the one calling plays. I am a head coach. And as a head coach, I need to prepare my team, the entire team, to win. And right, wrong, or indifferent doesn't matter. That's their thought process. You have seen CEO coaches win and be successful in the NFL along those lines. So we can talk about Aaron Glenn's decision to not call plays. We can talk about the Jets hiring a defensive-minded coach in the first place. They're going to have to replace their offensive coordinator time and time again. But in the grand scheme of what this team wants, they wanted the CEO head coach. They wanted a culture builder, a culture setter. You get that with Aaron Glenn. And now the number one problem, the number one issue that he is going to have to solve, that Jeff Ulbrich kind of brought up as well. Ulbrich didn't trust his staff. The staff didn't trust him. Ownership didn't trust the coaching staff or the GM. I put an article almost immediately after the press conference that trust is back in the building. And you saw it right away. You saw Woody Johnson's trust with the Jets and with this new leadership group. Trust is back on the team. But that means that Aaron Glenn must, not should, must hire great offensive minds and a strong defensive play caller that he can be allowed to run the show while he is the CEO, making sure everyone is prepared. It's a tall order. Robert Saleh failed at it. This is the exact role Saleh was in. He failed at it. I think a big reason why is because he did not hire experienced coaches for these roles. It was first-time offensive coordinator, very young defensive coordinator, all those issues. You're not getting that here. If you hire Steve Wilks, if you bring in Todd Haley, you're not going to have that issue. But not hiring the right guys is going to sink Aaron Glenn's candidacy, his tenure in New York, faster than anyone could expect. This is the most important thing this team does over the next 4 months.
And you mentioned Saleh's failure. One of the other failures was accountability. Let's run this quick clip from Aaron Glenn where he's asked directly about accountability and the player's coach label that's gotten thrown on AG.
Ryan Costello, New York Post. A lot of times people talk about coaches holding players accountable. What's your philosophy in terms of being hard on players versus, loving them up and being a quote-unquote player's coach?
To me, there's no such thing as accountability without responsibility. So it's my job to make sure that I let them know, what is your responsibility? And once they understand that, and then they know they have to be accountable for that. So it's not like I'm the one that have to tell them that you're wrong. They know it. So we set that standard up front. And players want that. They've been like that ever since college. They've been structured. So it's my job to make sure I set that structure. And after I said it, I hold them accountable for that. And they understand it.
Yeah, so I think that's a big question on Jet fans' minds is okay, are we going to get the accountability? because it was like the inmates were running the asylum with the Jets. Penalties and stupid shit would happen, like Michael Clemens dropping an elbow, Shawn Michaels style from the top rope in the Bills game, and then nothing. He does get yanked off the field. Does get a stern talking to, not even a sternly worded letter. I don't even know if that arrived at the Clemens residence. So there was all kinds of issues there from accountability. What is your confidence level that AG is going to be able to fix that problem? Because it seems easier said than done.
100%, because you have to. I think the best way to say it is you got to get the stench out of the organization. This team and franchise has grown accustomed to losing in any which way, particularly in the 2024 season. They just find new ways to lose. But the reason why you should feel a little bit better is the fact that Aaron Glenn, I almost want to say he talked like a preacher yesterday. And it wasn't just, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's all about God and all about that. It was about understanding the plan, understanding the process to get to that plan, and just talking about the system, talking about his process in talking to players, creating this culture. I thought his best answer of the day, one of the best answers he had, was changing a culture is about bringing in the right people. He mentioned Bill Parcells. That's something that, again, Robert Saleh failed to do. Coaches for the Jets in the last 14 years have failed to bring in a winning culture. For Aaron Glenn to understand that it does not just start with him and that the culture changes night and day because he walks in the building, that's an important acknowledgement. And his passion seeped through. I think his passion will certainly help. I always gravitate towards passionate people. If you're really passionate about something and you really feel strongly for your plan, you can get people to buy in. So we're not going to know if Aaron Glenn's accountability push is going to work. We don't know. And it's not fair to say it will just because he answered a couple questions really, really well yesterday. But we can say that there is a clear plan in place to bring in the right people for assistant coaches or in front office executives. There's a plan in place to develop the roster. I thought Mougey had a great point yesterday of we're going to draft, develop, and retain our young talent. That's exactly what he said. We're going to retain it. We're going to build through the draft. That's exactly what I got. And when you have that, you have a pipeline of players who are accustomed to the accountability system that Aaron Glenn puts forth. So we don't know. We don't know if it's going to magically be fixed, but we can assess that that's the answer Jets fans were looking for.
We're speaking with Nick Feria, baby, Athlon Sports, Jets reporter, talking all things Aaron Glenn, Darren Mougey, Aaron Rodgers comments, so much more. But one of the ones that's truly going viral on social media is because of Aaron Glenn's unique entry point into the NFL. And I'm not talking about his player. He had a wonderful career, first-round pick. That's a very common path, for people that are at the top of their games to be able to be a first-round pick and play forever in the league. But after his career was over and he's sitting on the couch hanging out with his family, he's still yelling. So his wife tells him, get back in there. And he's like, all right, I'll go coach. And he's like, let me call Bill Parcells first. And we're about to hear that story. This is the last clip we're going to play about how he didn't start in coaching. He actually started in scouting, and he didn't even want to start in scouting. But it's like our parents told us to do that. We're like, fine, we'll do it. And here's that clip. This is going viral on social media.
Antoine Staley, New York Daily News. I just want to go back to your journey as a scout in 2012 and just, how did that help you land this position today? And just also, did you imagine that you would be in this position now, years from there?
Well, I'll tell you a story exactly how that happened. So 2008, I retired. I take 2 years off to try to be the best dad I can be. Taking kids to school and spending time with my wife. And I can recall looking at ESPN, and I forgot who was playing, but I am cursing the TV out. And my wife tells me, baby, go coach. Go coach. It was like a weight off my shoulders because that's my passion. And it's okay to want to be a coach. Back then, I felt like I wanted to be a businessman, but I'm a football guy. And once she told me that, I got right in coach. I called Bill Parcells and told him I want to coach. He said, no, you're not going to coach. You're going to scout. I said, I don't want to scout. He said, well, that's what you're going to do because I think you have a chance to be a head coach. And the best head coaches are really the guys that are best evaluators. So I took his advice, probably the best advice I've had since coming back in this league. So understanding how to do it from an in-house perspective, and then actually going on the road to be a college scout, to be able to evaluate every position. It helped me tremendously to be in this position.
Let me flip that to you, Nick. How is that going to benefit him? Because obviously it's a very unique path. Not a lot of coaches get into scouting before getting into coaching.
It's so important. When we all have mentors in life with certain things. And when you have a mentor that really understands your goals, that understands the career that you're in to achieve those goals. I had one at Hofstra University when I was in college named John Mullen, Pete Silverman. And these two guys understood who I was, understood what I was good at, understood everything about it. And they were giving me advice based on my skill sets. And they essentially said, Nick, you're not going to get a reporting job right away. Jump into a big network. See what you can do at a big network just to get that on your resume, to get people understanding that you've already done radio work, you've done TV, join here in marketing, and it'll be really good for your career. So I jumped to ESPN for 2 years right out of college. That's the exact same thing that happened here. Bill Parcells has been around the NFL longer than any other mentor right now in the National Football League. He understood that Aaron Glenn, as a former player, had a very smart and cerebral mind, but he didn't have the talent evaluation part. He had the system in place of former players in any sport. They struggle with coaching in the league because they only know it their way. They don't know it any other way. So go into scouting. Try to do these different things and get those new experiences. It's so unique to see a coach do that, but that is full-blown Bill Parcells all the way. The fact that he went out there, understood who Aaron Glenn was, understood what it took to be a head coach and a successful head coach, and then sit there and say, you need this on your resume before you go into coaching. Otherwise, people won't look at you. People won't take you seriously for a head coaching job. I would argue his role as a scout further enhances his candidacy over guys like Liam Cohen, over guys like Brian Schottenheimer or Ben Johnson. And these are offensive-minded guys. And I've been a proponent of you need to hire the offensive-minded individual. I banged the table over and over again for it. But the fact that he went into scouting first tells me it's like in baseball. You look for the 5-tool players in baseball. You're looking for the 5-tool coach. You need someone who knows how to coach players and develop talent. You need a coach who knows how to locate talent and then win games through accountability, through systems in place, understanding how to hire the right people. That's Aaron Glenn. And I thought that story was fantastic because we've all been there. Every single one of us has been there. We all have a mentor that has given us help along the way to get where we were. Paul, you have that as well. You have your radio show. You didn't get there by yourself. You got there with people helping.
Definitely not. Yeah.
And when we have those mentors in place, the best mentors tell you the best way to succeed based on who you are as a person. Not just, oh, well, you want to be on radio? Well, then do X, Y, and Z like everyone else does, and you'll be perfectly fine. Go through the grind and everything will work out. That's not how it works. The best mentors know who you are and what you need to accomplish, what skills you need to gain before you get those dream jobs. So I thought that was a terrific story, and it makes a lot of sense moving forward. It's another reason why the Jets should be really excited about this hire.
You know, a lot of people came out of that. You mentioned it, winning the press conference, and people going, woo, I'm revved up. Let's run through a brick wall. But not everyone was. Let's shout out a member shout out here. Again, every time we get a YouTube super chat.
Wow.
Zoink Nation, who's been a member for 9 months, we appreciate you. And this is him saying this, am I the only one who feels AG and DM, Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey, sounded corny yesterday? Thoughts? Nick Faria.
Okay. I understand what this commenter is talking about. And I'm going to push back and say, every introductory press conference is corny. It's not just this one. It's every single one. Jerry Jones walked up to the podium yesterday and was asked, do you feel it's a gamble taking a guy like Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach, and then went on a 15-minute rant about all the media saying that, oh, he doesn't take chances anymore, and essentially how this is the biggest gamble of his life because Brian Schottenheimer has never been a head coach. Every single introductory press conference is corny. In its true essence, it's corny because you don't learn anything. You don't learn anything. They don't give you anything. They tell you essentially why to be excited. And
it's pomp and circumstance. I got you.
If you think it was corny, okay. If you think it was great, okay. I'm not going to say anything otherwise. But it's just there's nothing here to look at and say Aaron Glenn's going to be a great coach for the Jets because of this answer or because of that answer. Every piece that we talk about from here on out about his introductory press conference will be us giving our opinion based off of some answers that we liked or didn't like or are indifferent to. That's just a matter of fact here.
Yeah, to me, and again, same thing. You could have whatever perspective you want, whether you're on one side or the other. It won't change what the results will be in a bunch of months in a results-oriented business. Winning and losing will ultimately decide AG's fate. But if you want corny, look up the Liam Cohen presser. Look up him on his phone, goofy. He's on the press conference stage. He's like, man, I'm so happy to be here. He keeps looking behind her like, what is he doing? And all of a sudden he flips the camera around and the entire Jacksonville Jaguars press conference, he forces those poor bastards to all scream Duval, and then they have different camera shots. That's some goofy, corny shit. It's not like Aaron Glenn said, okay, everybody, we're going to do a JETS chant. Okay, I'm going to start it. Hey, he didn't.
This guy, Liam Cohen, is from Warwick, Rhode Island. That's about 15 minutes away from my parents' house, the house where I grew up.
Yeah.
He went to my high school about 9 years before I did. I think it's like 10 years.
Yeah.
This man made everyone in Rhode Island look bad yesterday. I'm not happy with him because I'm going to be sitting there going, I'm a kid from Rhode Island, a small state, up and comer. I'm going to try to punch my way up and continue my career. And everyone's going to look and say, you went to the high school Liam Cohen went to? Screw off. Get out of here.
Yeah, right. Damn it. You get no benefit from that right now. That's
I had 5 people yesterday. All my friends were like, hey, you went to LaSalle, right? And I'm like, yes, he went to LaSalle Academy. Yes, it really looks bad on us as an overall alumni base.
And then you pair that with everything that happened, right? It sounds like, again, different. There's multiple sides to every story. All the craziness of going from Bucs OC to Jags head coach and all the dirtiness that seemed to be there on all sides. And then this, oh boy, it's off to a bad start. But again, to your point, this is all table fodder. This is all just us media nonsense. And it's not even us. It's like Jaguars people down in Florida where it's a lot less intense. I mean, it's all just chatter until we eventually reach the winning portion of the organization. If he has a friggin' 11-win rookie season, okay, no one's going to give a shit about his random nonsense, which, by the way, random follow-up, total detour off to something else, but it's just something that it just kind of irked me yesterday. And so Woody Johnson revealed that the reporting structure is going back to the old school stuff, where it's AG and Darren Mougey both just reporting to him. And they did a slight change in the Joe Douglas Roberts side, where Saleh to Douglas above him to Douglas above, Woody Johnson. It had a pyramid. Boom, 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 boom. Now it's just they're on the same level. I saw a lot of Jet fans complaining yesterday. And to me, I'm like, I don't give it. I don't know if this will influence you, Nick, but I just said, I don't give a shit. Who cares who reports to who? I want wins. We haven't won with this structure, any structure. I don't give a shit. You could report to your mama. I don't care. Let's win some gosh darn games. But I wanted to bring it up because there is a large enough minority, or call it even larger than that, in Jets fan base that are pissed that the reporting structure is Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn at the same level, and they think that the GM should be above the head coach, and then the GM reports to the owner. What do you make of all that crap?
It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. They won with this system before. They won when the system was like that with Rex Ryan, and it worked. And Woody even said it yesterday. He goes, we've had it a couple ways for many years. We're going back to the structure of the GM and the head coach work together. They both report to me. If that works for them, great. If it doesn't, then they're going back to the drawing board to figure out the way to do this. But the answer that people should be taking from Woody Johnson is not this one. It's not. Okay. The answer that you should be taking to heart is him saying, I'm not making the decision on Aaron Rodgers. That is fully about Aaron Glenn and Mougey. They are the ones making that decision. They will tell me, and we are going to run with their plan. The fact that he said that after reports stated that he would prefer to move on from Rodgers, that is a huge, huge process and a huge part of this entire conversation. I'm going to share another story with you here, so just keep it on. But I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday. In 2020, Philadelphia went 4-11-1, and everyone was talking about how bad they were. They had anonymous sources leaking about how the head coach, GM, and quarterback all hated each other. Their drafts were horrible. From 2015 to 2020, they were horrible. They couldn't sign free agents. They had one lucky run in 2017. That was the perception. They had one lucky run in 2017, and everything else had been terrible. They were awful. They were an embarrassment. Everyone was saying how dysfunctional the Eagles were. And from people that I talked to close to the situation, they said that year was so important to them because it showed them, it really humbled them. It humbled the front office. It humbled the coaching staff. It humbled the owner to recognize we need to change. This cannot go on. So we need to change our process and how we do things. And from 2021 on, there's been very few teams that have been as successful as Philadelphia. I got that vibe yesterday from Woody Johnson because he said, I need to be a better owner. I need to be a better owner. I'm not going to be the one making the decision on Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be up to the coach and the GM. You can talk about the reporting structure. You're looking, fans who are complaining and worried about that are looking at the wrong thing. The most important part of his conference yesterday was him saying, I need to be better, and they're going to make the decision. It's not me. That tells me this past season has been a transformative one for the Jets franchise from an ownership perspective, from a GM and head coaching perspective, and a process perspective. You just can't get on Woody Johnson from yesterday. That's the one takeaway I had. He ran a tight ship. They had a very long coaching process, a GM hiring process. All of this was known. They ran a long one. They found their guys, and they have presented their guys in a way that is competent. There is nothing to complain about from yesterday about Woody Johnson because he acknowledged, I need to be better. I'm not going to be the one making the decision. You can't ask for anything more.
I would say that part was refreshing me. When I saw that quote, I'm like, huh? Woody said, I looked in the mirror and I need to be a better owner. I'm like, well, that admitting it's the first step. Okay, we're heading in the right direction. That's good. Now, here's the one Woody Johnson comment that I don't buy. He said that, they asked about that Aaron Rodgers answer. He's like, hey, it's going to be up to them. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, great, okay. And then they said, will you share your opinion of the matter? He's like, no, I'm not going to share my opinion. Obviously, I think in those conversations where they had those multiple hour meetings, Woody Johnson said basically they interviewed the same head coaching candidate every way with the same sets of questions, probably with slight differences and alterations for specific scenarios. And I'm sure they both, on both sides, spilled their guts about the Aaron Rodgers thing and went back and forth. Now, he may not outright say, hey, I don't want Aaron Rodgers or I do want Aaron Rodgers. But I'm pretty sure you could probably get the vibe from him. I think regardless, though, he says he's not going to share his opinion. I think he will. But even if he shares it, I hope AG and Darren Mougey just make the best decision for the football team, ignoring everything else. That for even if Woody wants him or doesn't want him, who gives a shit what he wants? It's about doing what's best for the team in this moment. If Aaron Rodgers is the best thing for the 2025 Jets, God bless. If he's not, okay, you move on. Jet fans will understand whichever direction they go. I think that's an important piece to the puzzle here. But when he said, I'm not going to share my opinion about it, I was kind of like,
Well, owners do. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not going. Owners do. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie still does. He's got a say in what the team does.
As they should. They run the ship,
But they say, here's my opinion. You do what you feel is best for the organization.
Yes.
Aaron Glenn yesterday called Woody. Mougey called him Mr. Johnson. Aaron Glenn had a
Caroline Hendershot called him ambassador. Yes.
Okay, so sure. Aaron Glenn had a previous relationship with Woody. And when I say trust is back in the building, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Woody Johnson trusts this staff to get it right, to make decisions. So when you have trust, you let your people do the job. I'll give my opinion, but you do the job. And Aaron Glenn's not someone to sit there and say, well, Woody wants this, so we're going to do it this way. I don't get that vibe from him. I don't get that vibe from yesterday. I don't get that vibe from the people that I've talked to about him. This is not a simple case of Woody wants full control and he'll rather just hire someone to do whatever he wants. That's not what's happening here.
Johnny Boy, by the way, saying, we're built for this shit. I like it. Okay.
Wow.
That was a wow moment from the press conference. There's no other way to put it. I really enjoyed that. Let me get to another super chat here coming in. All right, we got another one here. This is from Ace of Spade. We're going to get a lot of wows here.
Wow.
Can you tell us about Mougey? Do you like the hire? He was the assistant general manager of the Denver Broncos. He was obviously one of the names they initially interviewed, but when you looked at top 5 lists from every expert out there, Mougey didn't make any of them. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he became a finalist after the Lance Newmark thing spun off for whatever reason that did. So Ace of Spades, shout out for the $2 super chat. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Mougey as the GM?
There are very few beat reporters out there that I trust with their sources more than Ben Albright. He's covered Denver for a very long time. I know you just had him on your show, Paul.
Yes, yeah, great guy.
He made the great point of when you're a GM or a front office executive and you survive as many changes as the Broncos have gone through, that's not a sign that you're bad. That's a sign that you're really freaking good at this and they really trust you. We don't know if Mougey's going to be the right guy. We don't know how he is as a full talent evaluator. We only see from previous experiences with Denver, but even then, that is flimsy evidence. But I like what I've seen because he also understands that this is a business, and he has to take care and do make the right decisions moving forward. I am always someone that feels that you need to build your team a contender through the NFL draft. You need to do it by developing talent, but also finding that talent. Mougey essentially said the same thing yesterday. So that's, I think, a good feather in his cap. He was non-committal on contract extensions. He was non-committal on Aaron Rodgers. Very simply put, he gave nothing. He was asked one question in the main press conference, and that was to be expected. But you're not going to know anything about Mougey until these decisions start being made. I'm not going to make an assessment of if I like it or not because we have no idea. We just don't know.
Yeah. And by the way, salute to Zach Rosenblatt, who asked the one question to Darren Mougey so he could feel a part of it in some way, which we appreciate. Ace of Spade, by the way, with your super chats from earlier this cycle. That's a raffle ticket for you in the contest that we'll be giving away at the end of this week. So shout out to you, Ace of Spade. Another YouTube super chat coming in here from Flora Lily and Big D.
Wow.
Again, same thing. You're now up to 45 raffle tickets for Lily and Big D with your earlier super chats in this one, so thank you so much. Woody said he would stay out of the way and let coaches and GM make decisions. We're just talking about this, Nick. Do you think that will actually happen, that he will actually step out of the way and give the power there? Because I would imagine this, if I was an owner, how would I not want to meddle? It's my baby. It's my big toy, basically, of this organization. And of course, the other thing I heard from both Woody and Darren Mougey was that it was very clear that Woody wants to win and he wants to win badly. So if I'm an owner and I want to win badly and I want to try to help, sometimes my help can be, other people call it meddling. Me, it'd be trying to help and try to save things and do what I can. So do you actually believe this will transpire? Is the question from For Lily and Big D, with Woody taking a step to stage right.
Yes, and I'm going to stress that you guys read the article, my first article that came out yesterday, because it explains why. Because it's about trust. Woody didn't trust the previous regime. They didn't want to hire the assistant GMs, and they didn't want to hire assistant coaches. They didn't want to give contracts out in free agency to players that were more than just a year or two long. You don't have that here. You have the protection of Woody Johnson trusts you. So he's going to let his coaches and GM make the decision that is best for the organization because he believes in their plan. It may not work out. We don't know if it will or not. But I truly, truly believe that Woody Johnson's trust is back within the organization, and that changes a lot of this conversation.
And by the way, his trust should be back. This is a brand new group that's done nothing good or bad to hurt the trust that he has just bestowed upon them, and then allow them to carry that for what they will. Thank you for Lillian Big D for that super chat. Another super chat coming in here from Double R in the morning, baby.
Wow.
Aaron Rodgers is the best option, but can he take a back seat to AG? Because that feels like the importance here. Aaron, as just a quarterback, the numbers were really good last year, and there's not a lot of alternatives that the Jets can add. So, from that point blank standpoint, okay, Aaron Rodgers should be back. But Aaron Rodgers, Nick Faria, is more than just Aaron Rodgers. There's the enigma of Aaron Rodgers, the aura, the everything. Aaron Rodgers has his own culture. It's like his own orbit of Aaron Rodgers culture and storylines and distractions and everything that comes with it. The 4-time NFL MVP. There's a lot of talent and all that jazz. But can basically they coexist? That's kind of the question here from Double R, with AG being the leader of this ship and Aaron being just one of the guys. As Glenn said yesterday, no one is above the team.
Yes, they can, because he did with LaFleur. When LaFleur was hired, I think it was 2019. Everyone was talking about how they butted heads early because LaFleur wanted to run his system and Rodgers wanted to win with his. And it only started really working, when the two married the two together. Again, we don't know if he's going to return, but I think it's a very safe point that Rodgers respects former players and players that have been around in the league for a very long time. And Aaron Glenn's resume as a scout, as a former assistant, it speaks volumes to the work that he's done. So I do believe that Rodgers is not only just the best option that the Jets should focus on at the quarterback position, but I do believe that he will fall in line with Aaron Glenn. I really do believe that, because as much as we want to call Aaron Rodgers an enigma, the players that I have talked to in the locker room have said that he's very easy to buy into. He wants to help this team win. And if that means abiding by Aaron Glenn and his process, then so be it. I really do believe that there's an easy way for these two to coexist pretty well.
All right, let's go to another super chat here. Ace of Spade is back, baby. Keep them coming, baby.
Wow.
Ace of Spade throws this one in. Besides Bo Nix, who obviously was a remarkable draft pick, one that I will be honest, I was totally wrong on. I said, oh, this guy sucks. He's going to be terrible. And he was phenomenal. I know they got their teeth kicked down their throat in the wild card round against the Buffalo Bills. But besides that, obviously, they had a wonderful season and everything in between. Ace of Spade's question is, besides Bo Nix, what Denver draft? Give a grade. And I have all these in front of me here. They obviously had a lot of wonderful picks. Marvin Mims. They had Nick Bonito. They had multiple hits in other rounds. Obviously, PS2, Patrick Surtain II is arguably the best corner in all football. Quinnen Myers, who was a third-round pick, is an all-pro offensive lineman. Man, when you look at these last batch of drafts here, Denver hit, and they hit often. Now, how much credit does, again, assistant GM Darren Mougey deserve for that? I guess that's a different question then, Nick.
Yes, and I do want to say, I'm not giving a grade on the 2024 class. I refuse. Yeah. It is way too early. Bo Nix had a really good rookie season. Jaden Daniels had a really good rookie season. Are we sure that they're going to be back in the playoffs next year? They're not going to go through sophomore slumps? We can't just assume that you have one good season in the rookie year, that's going to be the standard time and time again. You have the Ben Roethlisbergers of the world who have a great rookie season, and then they win the Super Bowl in year 2. Or you have other quarterbacks like Dak Prescott who have a great rookie season. They're the MVP runner-up. And then they follow that up the next year by missing the playoffs entirely. We cannot make an assessment on draft classes after year 1. We can say that these players look good. We can talk about all the things that they do really well. But we can't make that assessment right away. I think case in point, everyone hated the Will McDonald draft. And really, they didn't really like Joe Tippmann either. They wanted John Michael Schmitz. Both picks now are surefire wins as of now for the Jets.
Right.
It's still too early. Normally, you don't really determine how good a draft is until 3 or 4 years down the road. You don't do it after year 1. You don't do it after year 2. But the response from the 2023 class after year 1 was, what is Joe Douglas doing? This isn't a good draft. No one's playing. After year 2, it's, well, wait a minute. We've got some good players here. Tippmann's the future center. We've got Will McDonald having a career year. All these things worked out pretty well for this team. We have no idea. We have no idea what these drafts are going to be like. It's not fair to any of these guys to grade right away.
Fair enough. And like I said, it's not. Massive shout out, though, to Bo Nix. That was a wonderful selection.
Great rookie, 100%.
100%. He was the sixth of those first-round quarterbacks, and Sean Payton sang this song like, that's the guy who I wanted the entire time. And I'm like, that's what I would say if I was 12th and that was the last guy I got. I'd say, yeah,
he really liked him.
Who I want.
I know he really liked him.
To your point, right? I call bullshit. When Sean Payton said that, I'm like, you're an idiot. There is no way that that's true. You just said that simply for 12. And then we saw the draft story that he told with Peter Schrager. He was also on the Pat McAfee show immediately after in the draft room. And it was true by all accounts. And it was true. And then he ends up being this great guy. So I thought it was bullshit because that was just the last quarterback available and that's who they got. But it sounds like by all accounts, that was the person they were targeting the entire time within realism because they weren't going to be able to trade up for a Jane Daniels or what have you. So putting that aside and then evaluating the class, they really wanted this guy and they were ultimately able to get him. But to your point, we've seen all kinds of people have great years, and then they RG3. Again, there could be injuries, there could be coaching, there could be a million things where everyone is the top dog, and then it all collapses. So we'll certainly see what happens there. We're opening up the phone lines for a few phone calls. We'll take here before we sign off on the show. And obviously, Nick, at any point, if you have to dip, as my father's trying to work that young man lingo into his, vocabulary, vernacular dip of just kind of exiting stage left, feel free to do so. But we'll try to take a few calls here. Your guy, Johnny Boy, is here on the program. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, BG, Nick, what's going on, man?
How you doing, man?
Okay.
Chilling, living the dream. Hey, Nick, congrats on your squad, bro, to making it to the Super Bowl. It's pretty.
Thank you. Yep, shit and bricks. Everything's fine. No worries.
Saquon, man. Saquon's that guy.
Oh, I'm so happy for Saquon, man.
Let's have some appreciation. Saquon is one of the greatest running backs. Can we please put appreciation on the quarterback that's been to 2 Super Bowls now in 3 years?
Well, he had a giant game.
Sure. Guy wins. Give me the winner.
All right. Hey, so I've been off a little bit. I've been traveling and all these things right there. I haven't really spoken in regards to
Nice flex there. You've been traveling a lot. You haven't had time for all these
big guy in his britches here. Hey, I've been traveling.
That was very nice. It was very smooth aviator jet tip. I've been traveling abroad. Oh yeah. Oh, have you? Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Go.
Well, I've been listening though, right? Which has been great. And seeing the AG stuff yesterday. Look, I think I'm like a lot of other fans that we're somewhat cautious, right? Because we don't want to go ahead and get all hyped up and everything. But seeing yesterday the press conference, Nick, you kind of stated like it was a very strong press conference, which I agree 100% on it. But we can't just start saying, playoffs, baby, and we can't just start division freaking wins and the whole nine. Like, he has to prove it, and he has a lot to prove. And I think for me yesterday, seeing a lot of the alumni come there and being proud, being with him shutting out Wayne about the Denver Bronco game, which a lot of people like myself, it's the reason why I hate the Broncos, right? Think about and him bringing that up and saying like this is unfinished business was huge. The other reports, the other press conferences he had later on with a lot of the other reporters, and I saw Nick, I saw you over there with your hat on the whole nine, right? I loved what he was pretty much. They kept asking him about Aaron Rodgers, and he kind of put people in their place, and it's something that I felt like we've been missing in a head coach, somebody that could say, look, you could keep asking the same question over and over, and I'm going to give you the same answer. So stop asking it. And he said that yesterday, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Got a little moxie there.
Yeah, which I liked, and then
like the Nick Saban ESPN thing. You can keep asking, but I ain't telling. Yeah, there was a little bit of that action energy going on. Yeah,
and then I mean, I think the biggest questions now is these dudes are ready to go to work. They said as of tonight we're starting to work. I thought that was big for him to send. I mean, this guy has a goal. He has a plan that's set, and as he said, buckle up and get ready for the ride. I'm rooting for him. Again, a lot of people have come out. Nick Mangold speaking and stating he's one of us.
Yeah,
it's something that resonates, I think, with a lot of the fan base as well, because he is one of us. And other than that, it's an exciting thing. Let's see what kind of roster he's going to be able to go ahead and build. I think that's super important to go there. I trust him. I think he knows what he's wanting to do, and he stated it. I want the best. I'm not looking for I'm not just looking for one of my friends or anything like that at all. I want somebody who's going to come in and change the culture. Speaking about Bill Parcells, Al Groh, and the whole nine was huge, man. So I don't know, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that he does really well. And, hey, still Jet season. Let's rock. And I appreciate you guys, man.
Well, thank you so much, Johnny Boy. Appreciate the call and squeezing us in among your abroad travels. That's quite nice. Glad you were able to do that, pal. Things are going well at that residence, huh, Nick Ferrier? Look at Johnny Boy getting all over the place. He's traveling probably to Egypt or something, some shit like that.
The question is, where's he going? That's the big question.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, traveling abroad, but yeah, he was less specific on the specific details of said trip, but we'll work on that. By the way, number one Austrian Jet fan with a YouTube super chat jumping in here.
Wow.
By the way, another raffle ticket, young man. You're racking them up. We built for this shit. Shirts coming. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Absolutely. If there is a way that I can market off of Aaron Glenn, how in God's green earth would I not do that? So yes, you could bet your bottom euros I will be jumping all over that in due time. Our number one Austrian Jet fan. We appreciate that. So due coming, by the way, the Boy Green merch shop down in the link below. No current Aaron Glenn gear, but hey, there's plenty of my face, and who wouldn't want that? By the way, number one Austrian Jet fan gifting a membership here on the channel. I love to see it. Let's see here. Is YouTube working today so we can read whoever the hell this is? That's unclear. We'll see if we can fix that in just a moment. And by the way, just because we're all in the mood here, Nick, we've got a lot of great things popping here on the channel. How could I not jump in? And yes, Snowball was just gifted a membership by number one Austrian Jet fan. You love to see it. I'm going to give some memberships right now just because I'm a handsome. Let's give 5 out to the universe. Here you go. Sometimes they say don't feed the animals, but you can't help yourself. Here we go. Here's a 5-pack of Boy Green Coffee Club memberships, baby. Let's give them out to the fans, all the people that help make the world spin round. Oh, yeah, baby.
That's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Straight we are, AG, you handsome bastard. Here are the 5 new members to the Boy Green Coffee Club. South Philly, Christopher Phillips, Johnny P, Dan NY, and Brooklyn-born Len. You guys are all now members to the Boy Green Coffee Club, baby. Let's jump back to the phone lines. NY Jets FL joining us here on the show. What's up, pal?
Morning, gentlemen. Hey, Nick, I'll say the things that you don't want to say. Cooper DeJohn is a top 3 corner. Ooh. The guy's a beast. Jalen Carter. The Eagles are the more physical team, especially in the running game. Their defense is I think they're going to slow the Chiefs down. I think the Eagles can win by double digits, quite honestly. I'm going to come out and say that.
Nope. Not doing it.
I'm going to say it.
Not taking the bait. They're going to lose by 50. They're not going to run the ball. They didn't run the ball the last time they played. If you look at the numbers, they ran for under 2 yards a carry with running backs. It's not going to happen. It's going to look ugly. You're talking to the wrong person on this. I've been there before. It's not happening. They're going to lose by 40.
So again, the Eagles dynasty starts here, Nick? Is that what we're talking about?
We're not putting that knock on wood.
Not 2, not 3.
Knock on wood. You guys are killing me here. I just got to knock on wood.
Okay. I'm just saying that as a Jet fan, as an independent observer, and we found out that Mekhi Becton was actually not a bust, quite honestly. Well,
let's jump in on that, NY Jets FL, because that was something I was going to ask earlier. How should Jet fans feel? I see some people have said, fuck Mekhi Becton. I've seen other people go, you know what? Awesome for Mekhi Becton. Glad that he was able to, he sort of got humbled where he's out on the open market and people aren't rushing to sign him. That's, I imagine, a very humbling experience for a former first-round pick. Then he earns his way, switches positions, and now he's a starter on a Super Bowl team. How should Jet fans feel? Nick Ferry is a guy that's on the other side here about Mekhi Becton and having all this wonderful success in a different place.
I'm not going to tell people how to think. Yeah, you guys can do that yourself. I'm of the opinion, though, when it comes to Mekhi, there were a lot of reasons why he failed in New York. It wasn't just him. His attitude certainly played a part in that because, we have evidence that he was demanding to be a left tackle over any other position. But I think he specifically saw the knee injury he suffered because he moved to right tackle and said, screw you, I'm not doing this. This is the proper way to do things. And I think he was humbled in a way in free agency. I think it's also fair to point out last year when he was having to play right tackle and left tackle and back and forth, the Jets were doing that while he was hurt. Like he was playing through pain for a very long time. And it's not necessarily his fault that these knee injuries happened. People are going to talk about his weight problem and everything else, but his weight's been pretty much the same that's been in Philly, and it hasn't been an issue. The Eagles just have the better coaching staff. That's not his fault. He went to the situation and to the offensive line coach that is arguably the best offensive line coach in football. Again, not his fault, not really the Jets' fault either. It just didn't work out. There are plenty of reasons why both can look and say, it's your fault. It's your fault. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. I don't think it's anything like that. I just think it didn't work out, and it worked out with a new team who better understood the expectation. And I think after this year, there's some people talking about it. Lane Johnson, knock on wood, they win the Super Bowl. It sounds like Lane Johnson's going to retire. And if he retires, the plan that I've heard is they're going to give Mekhi a long-term extension to be the right tackle moving forward. That's what I've heard. We'll see what happens. Lane could come back. They might, like I said, lose by 50, and Lane Johnson decides to come back, and then you keep him at right guard. But if he ends up retiring, you already have Tyler Steen on the roster. You're moving to right guard. And then you have Mekhi at right tackle would make a lot of sense. And again, Keith Carter or Jeff Stoutland, who would you rather play for if you're an offensive lineman?
I guess that's a good point. Yeah, go ahead, NY Jets FL.
Very interesting. I could see giving him a contract. Speaking of humbled, I really think Chef Kevin and I had a conversation in the chat about, I think Woody actually, between his age and what happened last year, maybe he looked in the mirror and said, hey, man, I tried it my way forever. It's time to, eat some humble pie and say, hey, maybe I can pass this along to a few guys who are maybe a little more knowledgeable than me, especially somebody he drafted. And one more point, I know you're probably short on time.
Yeah.
Aaron Glenn, I saw a lot of great things in that press conference, but one of the first things I thought about was father figure. Some of those guys may not have had a father figure in their life. And, having a buddy like Saleh, kind of an enabler that didn't really call out bad behavior, probably didn't help the cause last year. So I think the Aaron Glenn is going to clean this up pretty quickly. Let's just say that. But I know you guys got to go. So you guys have a great one. Appreciate it.
Thank you, NY Jets FL. And we've gotten this account. They've now super chatted so much money that they now have a raffle ticket to our contest here, Nick Ferrier. But there's a Fire Aaron Glenn account already that's been going on for the last couple of weeks as the rumors have continued here.
Wow.
Let's put them up. Let's put them up. Put them up.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, really. I've heard no explanation, just this over and over again. So Fire Aaron Glenn, whoever the hell you are, you now have a raffle ticket to win our contest at the end of the week. So thanks, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of people that apparently are not on the Aaron Glenn train. And we've gotten this Fire Aaron Glenn super chat, several times over the last week. I'm not really sure what to do with this information, but Fire Aaron Glenn. All right, here we go. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here. Oh, wait, we got one more super chat. Let me throw that one up here from Richard Wacker.
Wow.
Standard is beating Chiefs and Bills, which again, to the not quite fire Aaron Glenn point, but for that to do it is again wins. And credit to Aaron Glenn in every interview. And again, he did 100 of them. He had to do TV hits. He had to do radio hits. He had to do press conference hits. I mean, he had to do a bunch. And he kept saying the same thing. Like, oh, what are your expectations? And he said, to win. And he said, I've been winning everywhere else. The Jet fans, that was another one that went under the radar. Jet fans got to change their mentality. We're here to win. And we need to flip things. They haven't done a lot of winning here, but I win where I go. And he talked about the Saints starting from here, going here. Lions here to here. He's like, I win. So 100% Richard Wacker. All this, we're built for this shit, and all his seatbelt on, safety first, safety never takes a holiday, all that jazz, 100%. But it will be about winning, and we will see ultimately what's the Jets do, Richard Wacker. So we'll put that on there as well. Let's go to the phone lines. Got Neil Senior here on the show. What's up, Neil?
Here he is. What's up, Nick?
How's it been going, Neil?
All right. I met Nick in Long Island what was it, last year, Nick, or the year before?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Was that good or bad?
We had a great time. We chopped it up at that
wonderful.
Sports bar. What was it called again? The one on Farmingdale.
Oh, yeah. I completely – I don't know. I can't remember the name. Crap.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Oh, wonderful. I'm happy.
I'm gonna give you, Nick, a positive, a definite win here, because I've been wrong on every playoff game, and usually I'm pretty right. I've been a pretty good track record.
Neil, guarantee it for
So
me.
I'm going to guarantee the Chiefs are going to win the game. Okay, so
I agree.
I
help
see the
you.
reverse
You understand? To
psychology.
help you, I went again. I said Buffalo would win. Chiefs won. I went all around the playoffs going negative. The fortunate thing is I didn't actually put my money up. So I'm glad I didn't lose money. So the reality is I'm putting a negative tinge on.
Congratulations, Nick Ferry, on the Super Bowl
Nick,
championship.
you got it.
No.
The Chiefs are winning it big, and it's the end of the Chiefs. It's the end of the Chiefs. It's the end of the Chiefs.
You're going to crack my knuckles. I can't keep banging on wood all day.
I know. You don't have to bang on wood, then it's going to make me right. Anyhow, I watched a couple of the games with the Eagles. I watched all the games thoroughly. And when I watched the Eagle game, I focused on Becton. And let me tell you something. His run blocking is good. His pass pro sucks. Okay, come on.
His run blocking.
Hey, a guy could go like this, and he's standing still. I see him walking around. Look, he's good because he's got two Pro Bowl bookends on either side of him that mask a lot of the shit that he really is, Nick. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. He's not really.
His pass blocking was never his strength.
Yeah, I get it. But, he's still, how do I put it? He makes a couple of great plays, but he's not if you look at his PFF numbers, I'm sure they're not going to be type right guard in the league this year. Let's face it.
I think they're like top 12 or something.
Is it really? All right.
So listen, here's what I'll say. It's more than just a couple plays. All you got to do, that first touchdown run by Jalen Hurts and Saquon against the Rams.
Highway 77, baby.
You see him quite literally grab someone, throw him,
pancake him, right?
Guards.
No, listen,
guards
all
don't
good.
do that.
The bigger question to me is, where the hell is Bryce Huff? That's the bigger question. Forget about him. Bryce Huff has made less of an impact for the Eagles than Hassan Reddick has for us, which is nearly impossible. They don't like him. I heard the DC does not like him. I saw him line up. He just doesn't have the right system for him.
The DC, Fangio wants edge rushers who play the run as well as the pass. It's why Nolan Smith plays every freaking down. I mean, they love Nolan Smith. So he'll essentially say, my defensive line, we are in great shape. Jalen Carter's played like 90% of the snaps for like the last 2 months.
What a beast. He's a beast. He's great.
We're in great shape. I'm not going to throw in a player who doesn't know how to defend the run. And yeah, Bryce Huff hasn't worked out this year. I think a large part of that is it's a new defensive system. I would give him another year before you make a determination. It's only a 3-year contract that he got. But it kind of proves even the best GMs, I mean, Howie Roseman had a great offseason. Even the best GMs fail and miss on some things. He didn't miss on a lot this offseason. You got Zach Bond right. You got Saquon, the 2 corners in the draft. It's okay to miss one when you're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I will say this to you. I give bigger credit to your DC for playing the guys that are proving out to be the strength of your defense. Unlike us, who keep throwing Clemens and Reddick out there game after game after game when we know they don't produce. That's where I give you guys credit, is your DC really should get the credit there, by not playing Huff and really just sticking to his guns and playing the best guys he feels are going to perform for the team.
Howie brought in Fangio too. That's the thing. That's the other part of it, that offseason.
Right. And look, I want a Wink Martindale. I want somebody that's going to be an aggressive DC for us. Who's the guy that didn't somebody just let go of a really good who's the guy that's leaving Dallas? How's he?
Mike Zimmer?
Oh, you
Zimmer's
don't want
leaving
Zimmer.
Dallas. No
you
good?
Don't want Zimmer is old. His system is outdated. The thing about Fangio is a lot of defensive coordinators now still run his system. Like, that's the modern defensive system. And he's the godfather of it. It's the quarters high look that doesn't give up the big play. They make you eat every single yard with physical hits. That's the Fangio style. Zimmer is on the old school. I'm going to blitz internally. I'm going to have the double A gap blitz, and we're going to blitz every fucking play.
How about Wink Martindale? Isn't he kind of like that too, Nick? How do you view Wink Martindale as a DC? Because with the Giants, I thought he did great.
Wink Martindale is even more aggressive than Zimmer, and I wouldn't touch him with a 2-foot pole.
And what about now? What was that? How would you assess Aaron Glenn style as a DC? How was he? If you look at it,
he's kind of that same way where he wants to blitz and he wants to play zero coverage. But the interesting thing is, if he brings in Steve Wilkes, that's not his system. Wilkes runs more of a zone cover scheme. I think if you marry that with the kind of the man pressing that Glenn likes to play, you're going to have a real good bounce back year from Sauce Gardner. And he mentioned that yesterday in the press conference when we talked to him afterwards. He mentioned with Sauce, he was a Pro Bowler coming in. We want to make sure he's a Pro Bowler coming out. So I think we're going to see a very big bounce back year from Sauce Gardner.
I hope so. Neil, thanks for the call, and sorry to the other people that are waiting. I got to run to the radio station. I'm training guppies. I'm training interns this entire week, so these shows will be a little shorter than normal. Nick Faria, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and answering the Fire Glenn Super Chats and everything in between. You're a real pro. We appreciate that, Nick.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Nick Faria for joining us here on the show. We will be back in a couple of hours. We got Boy Green Meets Woody at 3 o'clock, so we'll see you guys then. Again, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We got a very special guest live from Mobile tomorrow on the show, someone formerly of the NFL Network. I can't wait for that one. That interview is going to be taking place at 8 o'clock, but we will be live at 7:30 to talk all things New York Jets leading into that great college all-star event. So again, we got Boy Green Meets Woody later today at 3 o'clock, myself and Woody. Tomorrow morning, former NFL Network host joining us on the program at 8 o'clock, and then we'll be live at 7:30. So it should be a super fun show. Like the video, hit subscribe. We're doing giveaways both for, at the end of the week, a Aaron Rodgers Nike Atmosphere jersey. I'll do a quick plug as we're dipping out of here. Again, this is what we're giving away at the end of the week. An Aaron Rodgers Nike Atmosphere jersey, heather gray color. $50 Boy Green merch shop gift card, custom laser engraving package with Jets logos and Boy Green logos merged together. If you've gifted a Boy Green Coffee Club membership or sent in $2.99 super chats or the equivalent of them, if you've sent several, every raffle ticket is $2.99 per. You can PayPal that in. You can Venmo that in. There are no limit. You can have as many raffle tickets as you'd like, but everyone that is gifted memberships this month is in the running. We've been keeping track all month long. And we have something for free for people that just subscribe to the show, which is another awesome way to support. You don't have to spend a dime. You don't have to spend a nickel if you don't want to. We're giving away for one lucky subscriber. When we reach 7,500 subs, we are less than 250 subscribers away. So share out the link. Tell your friends and family to subscribe to the Boy Green YouTube channel. And once we reach 7,500 subscribers, one lucky subscriber somewhere in that 7,500, will win an autographed piece of Jets merch signed by 2 former New York Jets first-round picks, and we will mail that straight to you. So people are doing giveaways for the people that help support the show with pay. We're helping support the show with people that are free subscribers to the show and everything in between. Like the video, hit subscribe. The Boy Green Daily and Boy Green channel is going to explode in 2025, and we want you to be a part of it. Thank you to the fans. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you at 3 o'clock, baby. Take care.